Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Hercules, and I'm the CEO of HITS, Innovative Technology Solutions. And I am so excited. I'm smiling from ear to ear because you guys are really in for a treat this evening. Erica Cunningham is our guest speaker today, and she is going to be sharing some insight related to cybersecurity and zero trust. And as you know, for the Opportunity Hub Cybersecurity Black Women in Cybersecurity Masterclass, we like to really be able to provide you with like the foundational elements of cybersecurity. And we've been going through like cybersecurity and beyond and doing some touch points on how different areas of IT interact with cybersecurity. But you are going to learn so much this evening just from Erica's experience in the space of cyber and zero trust. I was introduced to Erica through a dear friend of ours, Robin Basham. And the first time I spoke to Robin, she was like, you need to get in contact with Erica. She is a subject matter specialist in this area. You guys would connect and vibe in so many ways. And from our first conversation, I would say I just wanted the conversation to continue on, and I could not wait to bring you on as a guest speaker. So I humbly thank you for your time. And we are going to have a good time today just having a conversation about cybersecurity and zero trust. So if you wouldn't mind, please provide an introduction as to who you are, your journey in the information security cyberspace, and then we'll go from there.
Great. I'm so excited that I was introduced by a mutual friend, Jackie Coulter, to Robin, who introduced me to you, Michelle, because I feel like I'm in my network of all of these like powerful women in cybersecurity. And I feel like I've just touched the surface, but people might say, hey, she has a great background. So I just wanted to come on and just have a little talk because, you know, the zero trust area is growing and growing. It's like any other area of cybersecurity. And I wanted to give you a little bit of background as to what I've been doing. So I've been in cybersecurity for almost 20 years now, and it's been a nice race because there's always been problems, right? So if there's no risk, then we wouldn't be here, right? So I started out my career working for smaller companies, and then I parlayed that into working for larger companies. My first intro to cybersecurity was working for bigger firms like Brocade and Fujitsu and doing managed cybersecurity services for very large enterprise companies, Fortune 500s, because they were large companies as well. So I did that for a while, and then I spun off into partnerships and working for partners, and that was a good journey. So I enjoyed that as well. There's a lot more solutions out there that you can learn and get a lot more technical knowledge very quickly. I like to say that if anyone's out there that wants to become a cybersecurity professional, I'd say go for the practitioner's path before you take the kind of path that I did. Mine is more the theoretical path because I actually learned a bit about programming and got my bachelor's in IT. And I didn't want to program, which I probably should have stayed on that path because that would have been the general practitioner path. But I have made it here to have recently finished up my master's in cybersecurity. And I just love the field. I love helping corporations. I love helping different components of, the corporate world, whether it's the risk department or whether it's just the general IT department or the cyber teams. I just love helping them maybe solve solutions and knowing a lot more about, what the federal government and NIST is handing down as far as those changes. Just gives me some relevant conversation. And now they know I have a little bit of practical skills in that area, but it took a little bit longer, I'll say.
So we are going to dive into all of that. So just from the introduction, you guys can see why I am so excited to have Erica here. And so for those that don't know what zero trust means, what would you say is like your definition of zero trust? And you could even expand into maybe multi-factor authentication or the evolution of the data center that's now transitioning into virtual storage. So for those that have limited understanding of what zero trust is, and then, the acronym that you used earlier too, NIST, right, which is the standards that that we have to follow. If you wouldn't mind just giving some background on that.
Well, NIST has published a variety of publications in regard to various parts of IT infrastructure and security standards, so that we can make things much better
Mhm.
in networking. There's a lot of other bodies out there besides NIST, but NIST has come up because of the Biden administration, and we were getting so many cyber hacks. They said, "Look, we're going to have to put out a special publication that says, hey,
Mhm.
we are trusting way too much," and that's what
Mhm.
it says. Basically, that the concept of the older security model, which was to have traditional and trust but verify model, now we have
Mhm.
the implicit not do not trust and always verify, and that is from any type of device or any type of um sorry, any type
Oh,
of device or any
you're
type
fine.
of process that's going on. So we have all these processes that are running inside networks and inside the cloud, and you're just supposed to say, hey, don't trust anything that talks to anything. Try to limit the amount of talk that's going between devices and applications, as well as use special networking and security concepts that have been around for a long time. Some of these concepts are such as least privilege, using least privilege to say, hey, we're only going to give someone based on their role the least amount of privileges that they need to get their job done, right? So
Mhm.
those are the type of things. Microsegmentation is a new thing. And if you're
That
not
is a very new thing. Yeah. Yes, because, and I apologize to pause you there because a lot of people have probably heard about like the double authentication, right? And so please move forward with the
it's
other
not
area.
only two-factor authentication, it's multi-factor authentication, right? And you have to be, what you have, what you know, and what you are now, like whether biometric or some other way of authenticating. But you're using multi-factor now, which is more than three or three and plus in order to authenticate people to get access to privileged areas. So that's good. Just with talking about
Yeah.
microsegmentation just says that, hey, if you're running a network and it's totally flat and then people are coming in and they can go anywhere on the network, basically, firewall policy, any allow is not good, right? So
Right.
between the firewalls just give you access to the segments inside. So you're going to need something more than that, because once someone's inside, they can traverse that particular subnet that they're on, and they have access to all of those servers, and the ability to either stay in that segment or try to escalate privileges to get to other places, but they're always trying to
Hmm.
get to where they can cause some type of malice, right?
Hmm. And wouldn't you
To
say that concern has been elevated due to AI now? Wouldn't you say that there's a
A little bit of AI, but ransomware has been like
there we
the really bad problem in the last couple of years, maybe possibly before that, 3 4 years ago. But it's definitely come to the forefront of where it's actually a problem, and that it's up by 150% per year. So
go.
that's really the crux, and people don't want to pay the ransom, right? And they
Mm.
want to make sure that they're doing everything they can. So being able to use something like microsegmentation to make sure that people cannot traverse the network laterally. So basically, microsegmentation is just saying, I'm going to take my network and break it up into tiny, 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 tiny pieces, so that if someone has access to one of those tiny pieces, that they cannot get to a jump to another tiny piece. And it's kind of like putting a hacker in a closet is what you're
Mm.
doing. And so with microsegmentation, some people look at it as that they want to be able to, from an architecture standpoint, take a
Mhm.
look at microsegmentation as by machine, right? They want to microsegment down to the individual machines. And so
Yeah.
there's ways to do that. And so that just makes sure that your network is much more secure when you're looking at it, such as I can stop processes from running on machines, which is kind of the zero trust architecture, and I can stop the flow of where they can go. And so they want to be able to have control and write policies now and have a policy engine, no matter whether it's in the cloud or in the data center or on-prem. They want to be able to have that policy that allows those machines to be written to in a form where it individually, separates them from the rest of the segments, so that they are micro-segmented, and that no one can make a lateral move to get to other devices or servers or properties where they're not supposed to launch ransomware. And so that's much better.
I just for one, love the way that you explained that with such ease.
Oh.
Because what you just went over from beginning to end, it the way in which you explained it was brilliant. And again, for those in the audience that are really interested in the zero trust space, everything that Erica just shared, just in this first 5 minutes, are really critical to some of the foundational things in this space.
Yeah, it's
So,
so go ahead.
sorry. No, go ahead, Erica. Continue.
No, go ahead. I don't know if you wanted me to continue on that or if there's some other questions you
No,
might have or
so I was going to ask because I know that you mentioned you work for various Fortune 500 companies, 100 companies in a consulting realm, but what we haven't touched upon yet is working for a startup, right? And so, if you wouldn't mind diving into that as well, right, and sharing some nuances from that.
there are very nuances from working for companies that are a lot smaller. Sometimes
Hmm.
it requires a lot of flexibility.
Hmm.
If you're going to go work for a startup company, you're going to need to do your research on the company to find out what type of technology they have, what type of following they have. Are they Series A? Are they Series B? How many employees they have? What it looks like their trajectory might be? What investors they have? Who's on their board? There's a lot of things that go into being successful at a startup, and just being able to pull that information to say whether this might be the place for you, as well as the corporate culture and how that rolls out. So you should always be, not just looking at what your skill sets are or what you bring to the table, but also what the company is going to bring to the table for you, because you're always trying to do that in more of a long-term stretch, even though, they get in and they look at a lot of different things. They want diversity, they want a lot of things to go on. And so I think that you should look at a lot of different ways to live your life. Your work-life balance may be interrupted by going to a startup. I mean, it's not all negative, but as I said, they like to work people hard to get where they need to go.
Right.
So it's totally like you got to get in there. And if you're doing sales or if you're doing engineering, they want their return on investment very quickly. So you have to say, hey, I might have to work, a 12-hour day every day to get where the company needs to go. But really, I want to be that person that helps it, that trajectory, because I can get there's a lot of good things that you get. Sometimes you get equity in the company, you get
Sure.
stock options, you get a lot of
Sure.
things. So you want to look at everything in that package that they put together for you and say, is this worth 2 years of my life or three? Right. So,
And I, and I think that's what's unique about a startup, right? So you have the opportunity to work in a creative environment, right? So it may not be
mhm.
as regulated and structured as a government entity. But, and then in a commercial space, you may have some freedom. But, for startup, you're kind of working ground up with this organization, right? But then there are additional security concerns that you have to look at from
Mhm.
another standpoint. And so I appreciate you sharing that. Did you want to go into anything related to like sales, like selling? Because I know you said that you also have a background in sales as it comes to this area.
Well, I have a good background in cybersecurity startups.
Okay.
So cybersecurity startups are very good. You get to work with a lot of creative people that are teaching you a lot of things very quickly, and you're learning a lot more than you would if you maybe only had to do one thing. But a lot of times you have to put on many hats, and you have to be part of, marketing. You might have to be part of, engineering and post sales, and trying to help your clients navigate that as well, because there's not enough people a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
times when you're taking on new logos and new clients. So you're definitely looking at being very flexible person and being
Mm-hmm.
able to do that. I've worked in many different areas. I've worked in companies that provide device ID technology, which is now basically whitelisting for most retailers. So Amazon knows who you are when you come in and what your IP geolocation is and what your machine looks like every time you come back there. You've been whitelisted. Otherwise, if you're blacklisted, they'll just drop your packet and you're not getting in. So those type of companies, device fingerprinting. Also, I've worked in threat companies that do threat analysis and do Also, companies that do pen testing and bug bounty programs. Bug bounty programs are good to get hackers to take those vulnerabilities mostly off your web properties. So I've worked with those companies, as well as with now developmental companies that are looking at securing code in the CI/CD pipeline, so that you're taking a look at your Jenkins repository or your GitHub
Yeah.
repository, and you're making sure that you have the code tested prior to full production. And so there's a lot of tools that you use in that area, such as, IAST or DAST or SAST products, which are static testing or dynamic testing solutions that test your code before it goes into full production, so that you don't have anything that has really big flaws in it when it goes to production. So that's what
Again,
I've been doing. That's what I've been doing with just different companies doing a lot of different things. So you get a lot of background really quickly on how that works. And I could explain those technologies, but I don't know if that's in our cards for today.
again, I am just so thoroughly impressed by the way that you could go over all of those entities. But let's circle back to a couple of things, because I know I jumped into some of the things that I wanted to talk about first. But circling back to, you're a vice president of the information ISC Squared organization. You're on their board of directors, and if you wouldn't mind just sharing some insight pertaining to that organization, why it's important, and the role that you play.
I love the various cybersecurity boards. My first board was the ISA board, which is the ISSA, which is the Information Systems and Security Association, which I served for 7 years in the San Francisco chapter, under some really phenomenal people. And when you're on a board, there are certain levels of people. There's usually a president, a vice president. There's a treasury, there's a secretary, there's a programs manager, there's all different types of roles. You can have as many, I think, as you need in whatever organization it is. And those are all people that volunteer, and they come together and they make exciting things happen for their security community. They give conferences, they give, usually monthly talks. And if I have the time, I love to volunteer for boards, because you just to get to know your security community better. And those are all individuals that are trying to make security better as a whole, in a holistic sense, right? So that's why I liked serving on the ISSA, as well as I love being the vice president of the ISC Squared East Bay chapter with Robin Basham, because
Yeah.
she's just an awesome lady.
Absolutely. No, I have a lot of respect for that chapter. I know I did a guest presentation there as well, and the education that is shared with that chapter, it's really precious information, and I think you guys have a really good chapter and organization up there. So kudos
Yeah,
to the board for creating such a strong professional network to really help your community move forward in the space of cyber.
yeah, it's a great place to start. It's a great place to network with your community, no matter what it is you do. If you're a practitioner or whether you're a C-level executive, it just depends on who you are. We love to have our security, stand up our security community and support it. It's like, it's very necessary to make sure people are aware of what the ISC Square does, and how we contribute to, having a place for all of those professionals that have, a CISSP or a CISA, or,
Mhm.
security, plus, that we want to all the ISC Squared certifications. We like to support all those people that have them, and make sure that if you're an auditor, that you have a community for auditors, for managers that have done the CISM. We want to have a community of managers, and they can talk about different subject matters.
Well, you
So I think
pivoted perfectly into the next question that I had. What are, with your experience, what are some of the boot camps or certification programs that you would suggest for either someone who's just starting out in the field, or someone that's already been in the field? What are some of the, and you just mentioned some, but what are some of the certifications or boot camp programs that you think would be
well, you can
helpful?
definitely go to iscsquare.org, and you can definitely get the information about becoming a CISSP, which is kind of like taking the bar in cybersecurity. It's about a 6-hour exam, but it makes sure that you have all the different areas covered in order to be a great security practitioner. And it definitely does a lot for your career. I'd say that's one of the most important certifications that you could get. It's um, as well as the CISA and CISM, which is
Hmm.
Certified Information Security Auditor, Certified Information Security Manager. And I think that those also, if you want to go into risk, it doesn't matter which portion, but I think that if you start out as a practitioner, you'll have the skill sets to shift into something cyber. So if you're already in IT
Very
and you're
important.
well as an IT manager and you say, well, gee, how do I take this, this network administration or systems administration into basically not only knock but now into security operations, you can definitely just take like a security plus exam and say now I'm a practitioner, like
Hmm.
security analyst. Or if you want to go up higher, I would take any of the ISC squared ones that are higher level, as
Hmm.
well as just making sure that if you wanted to be inside of cloud, that you certify in cloud technologies, the normal ones, Google, Azure, I
Yes,
mean, like
yes, yes.
AWS.
And just for the audience, anything that is shared, some of the suggestions, we always send a follow-up email with some of the information that's listed or shared. So we could send a follow-up with some of the key things that Erica has provided. So I'm going to do a check and see, Nikki, who does the back end, back end stuff. Nikki, do we have any questions at this point before moving forward? Okay, so first question. Okay, I would like to know any recommendations for anyone with not a lot of experience, but good knowledge. So, Erica, what would be your suggestion for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience, but they're knowledgeable in the space of cyber and they're just trying to get their foot in? What would be your suggestion for this individual?
I'm trying to figure out what type of experience. Well, do you mean they have a lot of experience in their career, but they don't have any, they want to break into cyber, right?
That would be my assumption.
Well, if you have a lot of experience, I would say start with IT experience and then maybe, shift over to cyber. But if you wanted to take classes in cyber, you could definitely enhance that and move from your career that you have now right into cybersecurity. So that's what I would tell them as a practitioner, that they want to take the security plus or the A plus exam or wherever they are if they don't have any IT skills to start with. And then they're in a totally separate market, but they want to break into cyber. That's what I would tell them.
Mhm. Right. And then I think I mentioned this before too, like for individuals that don't necessarily have a lot of experience in this space, it's important if you are getting a certification to ensure that you're creating some type of project maybe at your current job to show
Mhm.
and prove that
It's
the
very important.
certification area that you're trying to shift into, that you were proactive in trying to create your own lane or to like work for a consulting company, a temp agency, and try to utilize the certification just so you could have some real life experience with it.
Yeah, I would say start with some of the beginner spaces. You could go to Udemy. I think Udemy is a great place. I've learned several classes on LinkedIn. They're free classes, and I've learned some on Udemy. Udemy is a great place to start with security practitioners, and the classes are really affordable. I mean, I just want to tell you, you could take A plus for like $10. So it's like,
Oh,
okay,
that's awesome.
you're not gonna like you're gonna be shocked at the prices, but you need to go in there and maybe go to udemy.com. It's udemy.com. And I just love their stuff. And I've taken classes over there. And whether you want to be a web designer or whether you want to be, a hardcore security practitioner, I just think that their classes are easy and affordable for a lot of communities that can't just jump into like, UC Berkeley's like cyber, you know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
you want to make sure that you're kind of giving people places there where they can go and land and they can get things that are affordable for them, as well as we'll give them their biggest bang for the buck, right? And so I find that plus learning from people in the community. I mean, Most of the chapters charge, but I mean, the East Bay chapter doesn't charge for the ISC squared. So you might want to join ISC squared East Bay. I mean, I'm probably not supposed to be
Absolutely.
plugging this stuff, but really
It's okay.
right now it doesn't cost anything. So it's like, it's easy to be able to get into your community and also ask questions within your
Mhm.
community as to how people have gotten a start. I mean, I am, a good security practitioner now in that I went to get my master's and I had to do a lot of things that were like, oh my God, my head's going to explode. But I got
Mhm.
through it, right? It's like,
You survived.
I survived. I got through it. It's like, but ethical hacking and hacking cell phones and using Metasploit tools and encase tools. Those are all good things and all good areas of practicing that I could go into, but that I didn't know about, right? So it's like,
Mhm.
okay.
So, Erica, for this next question, just to paraphrase it, if you want to obtain a cybersecurity degree, um, do you feel the degree can be obtained strictly online or in the classroom? And so I'll let you start with that, with your thoughts, or I can start. I think it's dependent on where you are in your career. If you're a student, if you're just coming out of college, or if you're just coming out of high school, I actually think it's important to um, go into a classroom maybe and pursue it so you have a degree in it. Now, if you're already a professional, if you've already um, obtained your master's or your BS, there are definitely online certifications. There
Mhm.
are online degrees that you could get, and it also depends on the company that you're working for, right? So if your company values the degree that you're trying to get online, and it's easy enough to touch base with like a career development area within your company or HR. But if you're doing it independently, it really is dependent on there's pros and cons. It's dependent on um, if you did want to go back, if you're able to afford it, but there you could still be able to get an online degree and be very successful with that. But I'll pivot over to you, Erica.
Well, there are several different ways. There are cyber boot camps. There's sort of
Mhm.
mini degrees that you can get and certifications through like UC Berkeley, or you can
Yeah,
also go to Coursera online has
yeah,
lots of them. I know that you can get your bachelor's in your master's in cybersecurity online or your bachelor's. There's several now. Institutions that offer them. They're great institutions. They'll put you in a cyber lab in the sky where you can't get it. We don't want you scanning Google's IP block, but you know what I mean? We don't want you to get in trouble, but they definitely have the resources to get you started. So if you'd like me to drop some schools in there, I can drop them in after uh, this particular session. So that,
excellent
so
response.
that might be helpful.
Thank you for that, Erica. That very true. Okay, so this is a AWS cloud training question. I will allow you to answer that one.
Okay. Yes, I would. And the answer is yes. Boot
Long and
camps,
short, yes.
AWS, anything, there's LinkedIn Learning. You can start anywhere you want. You can start um, with AWS classes. I think that anyone who's getting cloud certifications right now are going to be nimble in their work in the future, and they're definitely going to be able to grow in the future. So I prefer AWS or GPC. You can go to Azure training if you want. A lot of people still use Azure as well. So because that's kind of the corporate stamp mark with Windows and everything. So I would like people to know the different areas and maybe do some investigation. That's why I said you can do GRC classes, you can do certain things. That way you want to find out whether you want to become a cybersecurity auditor. Some people
Mm-hmm.
love to do like the little details and tell people what's wrong with what they're doing in their business process, and some people like that. So it just depends on where you want to be. If you want to be more of an architect, then definitely the cloud way of training is going to be great for you, because you want to try the AWS and you want to try, the GPC, like Google Cloud, and they all have a lot of things that they're building into their cloud infrastructures. You won't believe the vast training that you can get, because they all have designed things into their cloud platforms that are going to be great for the future and that you're going to need to know. So if you're going to be a cloud practitioner, you definitely want to go to AWS or Google, because they have hundreds of products. And you can go very deep, and they also have their way of doing zero trust inside their cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not only, because there's many different ways to solve problems in cybersecurity. That's what I always tell people. So zero trust, just having a framework, it's great, because it says that the things that you should be doing under the standard for zero trust. But there's many ways to do those. So some of them are like multi-factor authentication. That's one way, right? You just pick the way that you want to do multi-factor authentication, and then you have to do a lot of different things in order to make sure that you're looking at all the things that go into every single part of NIST 800-207. So you want to make sure that, if you want to do microsegmentation, or if you want to do something else, continuous monitoring,
Yeah.
there's cloud security posture management. There's a lot of stuff that goes in there to say, hey, are you still complying with, NIST in these ways? They're like, okay, can I prove it? Right. And then you're saying, I have to go out and audit myself in order to prove that I'm doing what I'm really doing. So yeah, there's a lot that you really want to talk about, and you can get down into the weeds. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll do another class or something
I
where you
was
get down
just
more down
you're
into the
reading my
weeds,
mind,
but
Erica,
it's like,
because I feel
it's
like
so much to
just
do.
it's not enough time. You read my mind, because I was like, we need a deep dive, because all of the elements that you're going over, a deep dive, or you could take a certification class or training
Mhm.
class, like we can construct one. But all of the elements that you're going into, and again, Erica is talking about it seamlessly, but there's so many subroots, and we really could have another just speak to the expert and dive into just some of these different concepts that you're talking about.
Yeah,
So
concepts and areas.
I know that we have a lot of questions, but I wanted to get to I know you wanted to talk about some concepts that our audience should be aware of. And you touched upon some of that already, but what are some of the concepts that you think would be very beneficial to our audience that
Oh, there's so much. I was like, but
correct? We have 30 more minutes. So no,
we
just
have 30
joking.
more minutes,
Like
really?
15. So
Okay. Well, we'll get back to areas of zero trust in that kind of journey with just saying that, hey, I'm not going to, implicitly, um, trust but verify, but I want to implicitly distrust, right? So just those common models that are taking up the first part of the NIST framework are really just to get you started focusing on, planning and methodologies, as well as everything that you need to do. So there's probably like 6 or 7 that are really relevant. Not
mhm,
only multi-factor authentication, but microsegmentation and documentation. And then what are you doing as far as your, regulatory compliance, your vendor collaboration? You don't want to jump in like full force in everything, because you don't
mhm,
want to, you want to kind of do things in a rollout sort of, where you can audit, what your process is, so that you can validate those processes and that they're really working as far as what your policies should be, as well as when those policies are going to become enforced, and
yes,
how that's going to change the network in itself, because you have to think of a lot of things in theory, but then you also have to say, what's the practicality of me getting this done and making
that
sure that it
part.
works. So yeah, so you're going to need kind of like a little bit of everything. I think that organizations that have a clear vision of what they want to do when they get to zero trust do better, because then they have people in networking security, they have people in cloud security, they have people in identity and access management, they have endpoint security, they have multi-factor
Mhm,
authentication. They're running their network and their SOCs very well, and so it's pretty streamlined. So for them to get to a zero trust, um, compliance, well, it's not really compliance, but a zero trust state, they want to make sure that they have everything that they would need and that they're monitoring, managing, and basically just saying, am I moving in the same direction, right? Because they have regulatory compliance that they're already doing. It's just that, they need to not trust anything outside that coming into the network or anything inside the network now, to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that they're not going to have any vulnerabilities or ransomware attacks because they're trusting people to too much, having too much access, right? So that's basically what zero trust says. And there's many ways to get there. So people are going to be auditing themselves based on what they're doing to get there. And microsegmentation just happens to be this new buzzword, right? Where people want to say, hey, let's put everybody, if they could put everybody in their own /32, they probably would. But I'm not sure that's the best business effective way to handle things. It just says
Mm-hmm.
that basically I've segmented everything down to one machine, right? A network of one. But there's a lot of different ways to do it safely so that you're going to be able to take advantage
Mm-hmm.
of making sure that nobody does lateral movement in your network so that they're not, getting access to more than they need.
So again, blown away by your technical expertise. And I know that you wanted to share with the audience some of the things that they need to know from a technical standpoint, but you also wanted to balance that with some of the things that they should know from an analytical or soft skills standpoint to be successful in this area. And so, what are some of your thoughts and suggestions related to technical and soft skills and analytical skills that they should have?
Let's see. Well,
I know this should be a deep
some of the
dive.
soft skills are like, hey, you need to be able to be a flexible person. You have to be able to work in a collaborative environment. You have to be able to work with uncertainty. You have to be able to work with various resources that they give you, right? You have to wear many hats. That's for anyone in their career. I think IT moves pretty fast as well as
Does.
cybersecurity. So you just have to really know. I mean, maybe having that startup mentality, just being in a more traditional setup is one of those things that you have to make sure that you're putting yourself in an environment where you want to make an impact in your work. You want to learn at a fast pace, and you want to basically make sure that you have everything that you need. So there's a lot of things where you could go in as a practitioner. So you could start with full stack development, or
Mm,
you could do data science, cybersecurity, cloud computing. Some people want to go into that design, so they want to be hands on with the code itself.
mm-hmm.
So there's a
UX,
lot of stuff in UX UI, which gives into the CI/CD pipeline, and basically
accessibility.
helping secure that piece because a lot of people are in risk management too as well, and all the stuff that they're putting out today either mitigates a security risk, a compliance risk, or a third party risk. So there's a lot of things going on there. So I would be happy to say I want everyone to start out with, networking first, then cybersecurity courses, and then just see where you want your career path to be and where you want your future to be. And you can build on that by just learning from some of the cybersecurity professionals that are out there. I mean, not only myself, I mean, I kind of know where I started, which was more in the theory, and now I'm getting the practical skills that I didn't get early on because I was like, I don't want to program. But if I had been a
Right.
UX UI designer, it's like, okay, I would have gotten there faster because I could have related it to something in security a lot faster. So that's
Right. And
that's one of the ways.
I know we joked when we first spoke because, right, I started my career on the technical side and then was able to shift over into cyber. But I think that there's still value in being able to know the cyber and the regulatory standards, and then, tapping it, and then at a later point, getting the coding skills or whatever it may be. But talking about coding where I have PTSD, I never want to code again, but that's for me, not for everyone, because Erica wants to, right? So what would be some of your suggestions in that space, though?
What, with coding?
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people do well with just, data analytics, as well as coding. If you're getting a Google Analytics certification, I think that's great. It's something
There
that
we
can
go.
take you into the future. If you really like programming, if you're doing UX UI design, some people just do whatever their passion is. But each separate cloud has their own set of designers and architects that help their platforms become better. So that's also and also project management, and just some people don't want to write code, but they want to know technically what the coders are doing, and they want to become a project manager, and they want to long-term manage large projects, right? And rollouts for, new web properties and new, cybersecurity projects. So
Right. And
I would say,
I'll pause right there because what you mentioned is extremely important. When in a lot of the other master classes, we talked about how you could bring in transferable skills to shift into cyber, right? And so one of the things Erica mentioned is if you do have like a project management background, that's something that you could shift, right? But then you have to
mhm,
also ensure that you get the technical expertise you need to be successful in that new area of cyber. But you could see with a lot of things that Erica mentioned, there's a synergy between information technology and cybersecurity, where if you are, let's say, on the coding side, and then you want to later do penetration testing, as
mhm.
Erica alluded to, there's a way of being able to transition that skill set into penetration testing. Or I love that you brought up UX and like the new things that are coming out to ensure that there's accessibility and that there's threat checks and everything in your back end coding. So
There's a
yes.
lot of things
So
that are moving parts. Just to go back to AI, like a lot of people
yes,
are like, AI is gonna, I'm not gonna have a job ever again if I let AI write code for me. There's still code testers, and they're still like them. I mean, AI
valid
may
point.
do a little bit, but you have to do validation on a lot of that stuff too. So,
Yes.
if
Let's say
you're
that one more time because that question comes up all the time. Is AI going to take over our positions? There will always be a human centric element to ensure that there's checks. With AI, there's still misuse, there's still bias, there are things that are wrong
Mhm.
in some of the AI, and so yes, I definitely agree with what you're saying there.
Yeah, we're definitely in the infancy, right? It's growing fast, but I don't think that everyone wants to say AI can do everything yet,
Mhm.
because we don't really know the underlying, development of AI, right? We don't know. It's
Well, it's
like
still
if
a work.
there's we don't know if there's implicit bias in certain things, and we don't know. It's like, okay, who wrote the code for that? So you have to look at stuff when you're doing just using of new tools and stuff. You have to say, hey, let's look at this from a practical standpoint of, you know, check the people who invented it, right?
All of the above, right? Because the regulatory standards are still being created, right? We're in that evolution of trying to figure it out. So doing a time check, I think we could take some more
More
questions before
questions. Okay.
before we come to an end. Um, so how do you handle mansplaining? So how do you handle men taking credit for your ideas? Um, Erica, please, I'll let you start.
Actually, that's happened a couple of times, but you try to do it with a bit of resilience and a bit of nudging, right? In the right areas. You try to be politically correct about it, and you try to say, hey, this is not going to happen again. So that's how I kind of handle it, because, you can't just go, rogue. You can't just go rogue in that situation. But
This is
it does make women very um uneasy about, the value that they are going to get inside of companies. And men will take credit for your ideas. You just have to know which ones to trust and which ones not to trust. I mean, you have to kind of go with your gut a lot of the time, and it will happen. But um you probably have a lot more talent than they do, which is why. So
But
it's
Erica, I apologize for cutting you off. I think that this also pivots into ensuring that you have a good mentor and sponsor
that's true.
where you're at.
Mhm.
someone that you feel that you could trust in mentorship and that, can actually speak to this. If you don't feel confident or you feel like you would be put in a retaliation type situation if you were to bring it up to that individual, it's very important to have some type of mentor or a sponsor that's also helping you grow within your career to be able to say, hey, I have a good relationship with this person, professional relationship with this person. This is what has been taking place. I've witnessed it myself. Something needs to happen. So sometimes you can't do it alone, right? And
Yeah,
so
sometimes you need a mentor and you also need to be able to, but you have to be able to willing to go to you have to go to the mat sometimes. So
yeah,
I don't want to really like explode what that looks like, but really you have to stand up for yourself
this is
ultimately
true.
because, there's a lot of people that are smart out there and I don't think they should be taken advantage of, especially women. It's like
Agreed.
we
Good
try to do
question.
our best to try to hold on, right?
This is true.
An IT mentor. I love that
Right
question, Lisa.
here.
Liza, that's a great question.
So,
Um,
and I'm sorry, jokes aside, we actually do offer a mentorship where you could sign up for mentorship. I've actually asked Erica because I knew she was going to touch upon a lot of areas. So I asked if she wouldn't mind being able to provide mentorship or having some available office hours, to which she graciously agreed to. But yeah, we offer that here. But then, Erica, please expand on that because I know you do a lot community work as well in this space.
yeah, I want to make sure that I don't like over offer and under deliver, right? It's like I always want to make sure that I'm there for the people because I had a lot of mentorship. I had a lot of great women that stood beside me and said, Erica, I just think you're awesome because you have such a passion for cybersecurity. And, really we're overlooking a lot of women by not networking with one another and making sure that they have mentorship that they need. So really, I think that if there are a certain number of you in the community, I could do it as a group effort or as a one-on-one individual effort, but I am only available, up to like 3 to 4 hours a week. So that is my commitment to the community. So I'm hoping I can get a lot of interest. And then maybe I'm just pointing you in the right direction and just offering the mentorship just to do an outline of a career path for you or something like that, that I might be able to help with just to, save and expedite your time with, going to other sources or not getting to where you need to be fast enough. So anything
Mhm.
to help.
It's imperative. One of the things I love about the mentorship that we offer is one, being able to hear everyone's story, where they are, and then helping them create a career trajectory, or it's a venting session, right? Like there's a lot of things that we go through, in this profession, and it's nice just to know someone sees you, someone hears you, and take the advice, or if you want, it may work for you or not, but it's at least someone else, you don't necessarily feel alone. And so yes, I'm holding
Mhm.
Erica to having some mentorship, helping assisting us with some mentorship.
Oh, she's a current grad student. Brittany, you're a grad student. That's awesome. Congratulations. You want to find some entry level cybersecurity um, internships? I can certainly help with that.
Excellent.
There are a lot of companies that are looking for cybersecurity interns and just don't do it for too long. It's like you can do it, but just don't do it for too long. It's good to get your portfolio ready and get yourself ready if you'd like to do that. And I can help you with, just the ones that are offered through the university where I went. There's a lot of apprenticeships and internships that you can do for entry level. Large companies are looking for AI designers, such as, car companies, very large American
Mhm.
car companies. Those type of companies are looking for apprenticeships and internships where they can get you really, on the right path quickly.
Yes. Okay. um well, do you think work fits best? Oh, well, Erica, this is definitely in your wheelhouse.
It's my
We'll stay
wheelhouse.
all the way back.
So I guess thanks Paige for the note and the question. I think first, if you're in a sales um, uh, if you have a sales and project management background, and you want to get into tech, first you have to have just the basics within tech. So you have to take classes in IT, and you're going to have to take classes in basic cybersecurity classes. Maybe you want to start with the CC exam, just to know just a little bit. That's the certified cybersecurity exam. Which is an entry level exam that the IC squared offers. But you do need to take such as you're going to need to take some technical classes in order to transition into. And some of those classes can be very, very inexpensive in order
Mhm.
to get where you need to go, so that um, you don't have to go out and get a degree in cybersecurity or anything to start. I mean, if you want to do the technical transitioning, you need to start with, going from like an IT admin to a security admin, and then you can go up from there. And you've already made the transition in the hop. So I will be happy to take a look at some roles based on your background. I'm not sure what kind of companies you're working for in sales and project management right now, Paige, but I'd be happy to take a look at how you could make that transition if that's what you'd like to do.
So, because I know we're running a little short on time, this could probably be one of the last questions, and then we'll go into closing.
Okay.
So, background experience.
Okay, I can handle this one.
Okay.
So if you currently have an associate's degree in cybersecurity, but you don't have any work experience, and you're trying to break and get your first, foot in the door in cybersecurity, since you have an associate's degree, you do have kind of some skill sets already, from
Absolutely.
IT to cybersecurity. So I'm just wondering why that hasn't happened. But if it hasn't happened, then you might want to take a look at just doing some apprenticeship work in cybersecurity. So I know some internships that might be good for you, so that you can start. So you already have practical experience. Some people start out with, their community, and do volunteer work within their community, and say, hey, I set up the network for this company. I set up the network for that company, or I set up the net for this nonprofit. You can start working for a nonprofit and set up their IT infrastructure or cybersecurity. That gives you a portfolio of where you've been. And then you got like the next job that you go to. You're like, hey, I did this for 6 months or a year. Now you get your first job in cybersecurity and go up from there. And I'm not saying you even have to get a bachelor's in cybersecurity or anything else. You still are working towards being a practitioner and getting those skills. And then you want to look at maybe getting a few certifications under your belt, like the Security Plus or the A Plus and Security Plus. But that might already be part of your cybersecurity associates. I don't know which courses, but if you'll tell me which courses, I might be able to relate those into a foot in the door in project management or anything else in cybersecurity.
So, again, it's hard, right? To one
It's hard. I don't feel
process and digest everything that Erica has provided to us, because she has dropped so many gems of knowledge in this space. And so, but what I wanted to ask you before we close, 'cause I think we covered a lot of the topics that you wanted to cover within like the questions, but I did want to talk about, some of the work that you've done in with the 501c3 in helping Black women, or just minorities in general, with SAT scores, and then, any other additional things that you've been
Yeah,
doing.
I recently got an offer to do some volunteer work for a 501c3 in their cybersecurity space, to help them set up, just their practical in and out networking things. But the 501c that the reason why I wanted to join them is because they have such a great thing that they want to do they have training that they want to do for kids that are teenagers, anyone above the 7th grade. The whole thing is that there's not any type of affirmative action in education anymore. So they want to make sure that minority students as well get access to um, SAT scores, and working towards those tests and exams that they're going to need in order to score the highest that they possibly can, in order to make it more of a level playing field for them, because they're not going to be considered based on race or ethnicity. probably anymore with the last, Supreme Court ruling. So I think that what they're doing is the best because they have certain minority cultures that have already been teaching to the test for like a long time. And because they start the training so early in the sixth or seventh grade or the eighth grade and training for the SATs, that it becomes so familiar to them when they go to take an exam that they just know all the answers and they go, okay, that was a breeze. And then they breeze into college, and then they breeze into greater opportunities with institutions where they might actually be able to get scholarships and go to better colleges. And that is the goal of, helping minorities, because it is going to be a little bit more of a, push in the near future. So we want to make sure that we're looking after our kids, right?
Well, I applaud you for that effort, right? Like we talk about cyber, but it really is ensuring that our children are able to get, get a foot in the door as well to be successful. So I applaud you for doing that. Thank you for
Well,
sharing
thank you.
that. And so we have like 5 minutes left. And with that, I don't know if there was anything else that you wanted to share with the group. Again, for me, as you guys can see, this is exactly why I was so excited to have Erica here. She is brilliant in this space. And I know for me, I've learned a lot from just this session alone. But I feel very blessed to be able to have you in my network. It's someone that, I could be able to contact just to say, okay, Erica, what is this now? And so, but that's what it's about. And so in closing, I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to leave with the audience.
Well, in closing, yeah, I'd like to do another session where I get deeper into zero trust. But I mean, I'm just glad to give a little bit of background about who I am. So if you see me again, you'll probably say, yeah, I saw that face before. It's okay. It's like I want to be able to add to the community and make sure the community has success. I mean, I think for women, we need to make sure that we're always, just looking out for one another and saying, hey, this is not someone who's trying to come after me. This is someone who's my ally. It's like, it's always been about making additional allies and making sure that they know that we have brains in our heads and that we're always thinking and we're always trying to acknowledge one another and saying, hey, we have to be there because otherwise we won't make it, right?
Absolutely. No, well, I appreciate your partnership in this cybersecurity life. And so with that, we're going to have to bring this to a close. But was there anything else you wanted to share?
No, I'm just saying, I'm just so happy I met you and Nikki and I'm so happy for meeting Robin and, just through my friend Jackie. So I just think that it's such a great time and for women. And if we all stick together, we're going to bring other things to the table, but they'll all be unique things, right? We all have uniqueness, and a passion where we want to, just be good consultants, good people, have great lives. And I think that if we have a passion for making sure that our voices are heard in the space, right?
And that we're seen.
That we're seen.
Thank you again. I can't thank you enough. And so thank you all. Until the next time, we will definitely have Erica as an expert to come back again, or we'll do a deep dive. We'll figure something else out. But thank you again, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day.